Dollar. Dirt on money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack and flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yup, what's good, original crew, man? We're back, baby. Back with a new Nick Crowley. Mm-hmm. We have the internet's darkest corners for. I know we haven't did 1, 2, or 3 yet, but hey, just bear with us. We doing some new things around here, man. But we got obviously, as you can see, new setup, new look. Y'all bear with us especially with the quality. We're still working on it, so we need y'all's feedback. Let us know how y'all feeling the quality as far as audio, visual, everything. All constructive criticism is very much so welcome. Negativity is not welcome, but constructive criticism is welcome. We're here for it, man. Y'all help us so we can help y'all with this. This will be able to let us get way more content out, longer content, a lot of content that y'all have been wanting us to do for a long time. Reason why we haven't been able to do it is because of the system we were using prior. So it was taking us a long time to get these videos out to y'all. Yeah. So hopefully this will help us a lot. Also looking forward to possibly streaming with you all in the future. So y'all get ready for that. But also, I know a lot of y'all been waiting. Let's pausing on the platform. So I won't have to pause as much because one reason why we were having a pause is for editing purposes. Yeah. Also for copyright purposes, but we're not just going to sit here and watch. But just for editing purposes, we were having to do a lot more. So we won't have to pause as much now. But we're still going to interact with the video.
Most definitely.
Still going to do reactionary content. But with that being said, man, we have the internet darkest corners for. But before we get into it, make sure you check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go. Hey, go over there to the Patreon, bro. Since we got this new setup, got this new style of how we're going to be pushing this content. A lot of content that y'all have been asking us to do. And what we've been wanting to do is coming very, very soon to the Patreon. Especially if you follow anime. A lot of anime style content is coming over there. So y'all tune into that. Also other things that we've been wanting to do over there as well. Patreon finna go up. I don't know about y'all, but Patreon's about to go up. But also, if you enjoyed today's visuals,
lock it in with a thumbs up.
Also, drop in the comment section recommendations, requests, other things, so we can get into it. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it today. Let's check it out. Let's see what's about. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go.
Warning flashing. Engine instruments are dependable reference, which first officer and captain peer out into the distance to find the smooth, clear way ahead.
August 31st, 1988. An airplane sits motionless at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport as passengers begin to slowly take their seats. 78 people in total were scheduled to fly that day, with the craft being piloted by Captain Larry Davis, First Officer Kerry Kirkland, and Flight Engineer Stephen Judd, a crew that boasted an impressive 30,000 hours of flight time amongst them. It was a notably windy day for the flight bound for Salt Lake City, Utah. So much so that by the time they had pulled away from the gate and reached the runway, a call was sent down to the cockpit directing them to hold their position for an additional minute, as the gusts now swelled more and more ferociously. The hold again left the craft stationary, allowing for a few moments in which the crew members spoke amongst themselves.
We forgot something on our first leg today. We forgot to discuss about the dating habits of our flight attendants so we can get it on the recorder, in case we crashed and the media would have some kind of a juicy
The voice you're hearing is that of First Officer Kerry Kirkland, who mentions a point that, in passing, seems completely out of the blue, that they should talk about the dating habits of their flight attendants, as it would give the media something to talk about in the event that they crashed. As bizarre as this line sounds, Kerry was actually referencing a separate incident that had happened not even a year before, with that being the crash of Flight 1713.
A few seconds of indescribable terror on runway 35 left. Too many people die in an instant. We ask again, why them and not us?
In that scenario, the pilots of the flight had also been awaiting takeoff, this time in the midst of a brutal blizzard. And rather than discussing their takeoff, they instead had conversations about the stewardesses on board, joking and laughing amongst themselves about the manner in which they dated around, with these pilots getting so lost in that conversation that they completely forgot to de-ice their plane. A mistake they likely never even realized, as just moments after takeoff, rather than the plane soaring high above the ground, it raised only slightly before falling limp, crashing into the dirt below it and killing 28 people on board, including those 2 pilots. The story made national and international headlines, making it a topical reference for Carey to bring up, yet also a clearly inappropriate one, as he had failed to notice the irony in his words. Following the crash of 1713, new stricter guidelines were put in place so that pilots would keep their conversation focused on the takeoff process until they were well established in the air. Yet here, Carey was joking around with the crew, not even noticing that he too was creating a distraction. One that sucked in not only one of their flight attendants, but even the captain himself.
We were just talking yesterday, about 191 seems to be the classic airline crash that the news media goes for every time.
Which led to Carey providing one last bit of gallows humor.
Yeah, that Continental that crashed in Denver. Did you read that? Yeah, they were talking about the dating habits of one of their flight attendants. They were real nice. Yeah, that made me laugh, We gotta leave something for our wife and children to listen to.
He was well aware of just how
What the fuck?
I would be like, please, let's not talk about this right before takeoff.
That is sick, bro.
Let's stay focused. I don't want to talk about that. I don't need the jokes.
Nah, don't
about
need the
crashing
jokes.
and stuff. I don't need that.
That is very sick. I'm lost. I'm at loss of words, man. That is crazy.
how much the media loved a good plane crash segment. And unbeknownst to that distracted crew within the cockpit, they were about to give them a fresh story.
Power set. Engine estimates look good. Airspeed's coming up both sides. VR, D2. Whoa. Engine failure. We got an engine failure. We're not gonna make it. 941. Oh, power off.
22 seconds.
Wow.
That's all the airtime the craft could muster, as immediately upon the wheels lifting off the ground, the craft began to roll right, with the wing striking the runway and catching on fire as it clipped a nearby antenna that was anchored to the ground. The plane was immediately uncontrollable and completely unable to gain any sort of significant altitude, as it fell into a pathetic descent and crashed into the dirt below it, sliding well over 1,000 feet before grinding to a halt. In the carnage, 14 people would lose their lives, including 2 of the flight attendants, while miraculously, all others survived, including everyone heard on this fateful recording, all of whom were swiftly fired, though not criminally convicted, despite the fact that the crash was deemed to have been caused by their own human error. What the crew had failed to realize was that as they joked about the pilots of Flight 1713 and their untimely distraction, they too had distracted themselves to the point of forgetting an integral step of the takeoff process. They had failed to lower their wing flaps and slats for takeoff. And without these in proper position, the flight never stood a chance, making the final words inside that cockpit some of the most chillingly ironic ever recorded, with this audio going on to become yet another disturbing oddity found within the dark corners of the internet.
That is crazy, bro.
And that's why, like, conversations, like, let's stay focused on what, like, we have too many lives in our hands. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can have the jokes and stuff, whatever, because you don't want everything to just be,
Stale.
like, you know, and just,
Too serious.
yeah, not having fun or whatever case may be. But let's do that after.
Yeah.
Like, let's make sure everything is in order. Make sure we're off the ground. Make sure everything is going, you know,
But
as planned.
But I do got a question for you, and I got
Yeah.
a question for you all too. Do y'all feel as though that they deserve to be charged criminally? Because that is criminal negligence. It's negligence though. Like
Yeah, it is. I I don't know, like, as to the reasoning why they
Or
weren't.
to what degree.
Or to what degree, like, what calls for,
Yeah.
for someone to be charged, I guess. I don't know if they just looked at it as, like, I don't
accident.
know, like an accident, what, I don't know.
Like, it could happen.
As far as, like, because it seemed like they was, like, what you go up against, like, some type of board or something. So I don't know, like, exactly the rules or the stipulations as to what would deem someone to be held accountable for 14 people losing their lives.
True.
So.
Well, only reason why I said it, do you remember that, what's that movie Denzel was in where he was the pilot?
I do remember the movie.
But I guess in that situation, because it was based on a true story, that pilot was also intoxicated.
See, now, that's different. That's different when you're under the influence.
But nobody
or something.
died. But they still wanted to. I remember watching the movie multiple times.
Yeah.
I just can't remember
but
the
every
plot.
Single thing.
See,
that's different when you've been found like under the influence of alcohol or drugs or whatever the case may be, or that's different. But I guess with this one, they looked at it as just like a mistake or an error or an accident. So maybe that's why they weren't charged with anything. But dang.
But you got to also look at it like this. Think about the family members, right? The family members, they like, hey, if y'all didn't go through those conversations and talking, our loved ones would, being distracted, our loved ones would have made it. So due to the fact that y'all negligence, 14 people lost their lives. They didn't have to lose their lives.
And I guess with that, most people handle things different ways as far as like,
I guess like a civil,
and try to recoup like I guess money or
monetary,
something.
Yeah.
I mean, still 14 people lost their life. True. It doesn't bring back,
True.
Order, in case we crash.
I'm gonna die. It's all the way up to my windows. I'm gonna die.
JJ didn't know how much time had passed when he first noticed the soundless haze that had moved in all around him.
JJ could no longer see the stars or the moon.
The world of flying is often a scary and complex one, and our first case shows just how important it is for pilots to properly check their crafts before taking off. Something that, even as a pilot in training, 18-year-old Connor Quisenberry understood all too well. A well-studied student of the ATP flight school, Connor had made it his life's mission to become a pilot, completing a multitude of classes and courses at the school. And by the age of 18, only a few steps stood in the way of him obtaining his private pilot's license, the most daunting of which being the high number of flight hours needed. And so, on September 27th, 2023, Connor was scheduled for a nighttime flight with ATP instructor Timothy McKellar, in which he would pilot a small prop plane on a 3-hour-long journey, thus bringing him 3 hours closer to that coveted license. McKellar was just 22, a young man himself, and he had not been Timothy's usual instructor, but that day he was the only pilot available to assist Connor. In fact, it was the first time the two had ever even flown together, and it was clear from the get-go that it was probably going to be their last. Recognizing the importance of checking over your plane before takeoff, Connor had begun performing a lengthy check of the craft to ensure that everything was in working order, exactly what most instructors would probably want to see from their students. But apparently not McKellar, as unbeknownst to Connor, his flight instructor had pulled out his cell phone during his checks and recorded the following video for his Snapchat.
Me and the student would not get along if he was my full-time student. I've seen faster at the wow.
The post was scathing, and despite the student pilot not doing anything out of the ordinary, McKellar seemed displeased at the speed at which Connor was operating, telling his friends on Snapchat how glad he was that Connor wasn't his full-time student, and that he'd seen faster movement at the Special Olympics. It was clear that McKellar wanted no part of this flight, and that the two could be in for a long, tense evening, with McKellar's passive-aggressive attitude only continuing on from here.
Wow.
I don't have to be up at 4:30 a.m. tomorrow or nothing. Let's take our sweet time and have a conversation instead of getting this 3-hour flight done.
Like, it's best to be safe and sorry.
Facts.
So
Facts.
I would prefer someone to take their time, make sure they have everything checked off the list.
Facts.
Like, really?
Facts. I 100% agree.
The caption here sheds more light on why McKellar seemed so frustrated. As he typed, "I don't have to be up at 4:30 a.m. tomorrow or nothing. Let's take our sweet-ass time and have a conversation instead of getting this 3-hour flight done." But that frustration obviously can't excuse his comments or his demeanor, as in this scenario, he was the teacher, there to support and mentor Connor. Yet instead, he was lambasting him behind his back on social media, and making it apparent to the young student that he was being a burden, as he tapped his fingers obnoxiously on the plane. And these posts continued from here, as the next Snapchat shows that the two had finally made it inside the craft and had now taken off.
Wow.
Now obviously there's a lot of context missing here. It could have been possible that Connor had said something that irked McKellar, or that he was just not being responsive to any advice given. But this seems to be immediately disproven by yet another Snapchat that McKellar posted. 1.6 hours into the flight of me giving it to him straight up. "Forrest, I don't mind you being hard on me, I know I need it." Me thinking to myself, did you really think I cared if you minded? But what I actually said is that we're flying planes, not driving cars. We can't have these weak areas this far in the game. The caption seemed to confirm that Connor was clearly trying to learn and get better, since after all, he was just a student and only 18 years old. But this didn't matter to McKellar, and unfortunately for Connor, this nightmare of a flight was about to get much, much worse.
Oh my
Headed our way like a group of pissed off hornets, McKellar posted, accompanied by a screenshot of a weather radar showing heavy rainstorms in the direction in which they were headed. This was the final post ever made to McKellar's Snapchat, as moments later, the small craft would lose contact with flight control and disappear into the stormy night sky. It wouldn't take long for the plane to be found, or at least what was left of it, as using the final posting from Timothy's Snapchat story, a search team was able to track the craft down to a wooded area behind a church, with the flight having ended in a terrible crash due to the turbulence from that storm. And inside that mangled mess of steel were the bodies of Connor Quisenberry and Timothy McKellar, neither of whom survived the impact. With Connor's final night on this earth having been spent facing intense ridicule both in real life and on social media, making these Snapchats some of the more depressing content out there on the internet.
Wow.
That's so sad.
That is sad. The last moments you have is spent with a douchebag. I don't want to be this disrespectful, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I'm just a firm believer. Just treat people kind. Like, I don't understand. Like, you are the teacher. He is the student. He's there to learn. He's trying to get better. Like, I do feel like it's your responsibility to make sure that he has all his ducks in a row and that he has, like the proper knowledge for, like, it's no joke flying planes. You know
Facts.
what I'm saying? Like, this is something that should be taken serious. And I'm gonna, honey, I don't care if you irritate with me. I will ask every question until I'm comfortable.
You would.
And I am. Like, that's just me. Like, if I'm not sure about something, I am going to ask every question until I'm like, okay, I got it.
Facts.
Like, that's just what it is. If you're irritated, you should find something else to do.
That is true. Like I would say, like, I think the biggest failure in life for a lot of people is the failure of grace. A lot of people I don't know why, but I've been using that word a lot lately.
You need a little grace?
No, everybody needs grace.
Yeah, we do. I'm just being
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just saying, like,
you have been using it a lot. But yeah, we do. Like,
forgiveness and grace, bro. Like, just, the world's very cruel, man.
Yeah.
And you don't know what this man had to deal with all day. He possibly nervous. We don't know if it was his first flight at night.
Yeah.
You don't know.
You don't know these things.
Or you don't know if he possibly seen the weather and seen
Right.
there was a storm, and he probably was nervous, like, hey.
And then he doesn't know what type of teacher you are because he's never dealt with you. He's never flown with you before. So,
True.
Like, he just want to make sure that because he don't know what type of report you're going to,
Facts.
give him, or, report back to whoever you have to report back to. So he just want to make sure he has everything together. And unfortunately,
And I wonder in those planes, are they dual pilot? You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I'm not a person that go on flights and stuff like that. So I'm ignorant to
that.
how a plane, like, especially different planes, and so maybe somebody can fill me in on that perspective of it. Was there a capability for the other pilot, the teacher, to take over the plane in those? But we probably don't know.
Yeah, don't know. Don't know how, like, reactive he was. The teacher probably was to, like, and then I don't even know if it was something that could have been maybe prevented from like the weather being
true.
So
yeah.
Let's go big, let's go big. Time to learn and grow. It's off to school we go.
Do not add ed at the end of irregular verbs when making them in the past tense. That's only for regular verbs. This is Luke Rockwell, or some of you may know him as Teacher Luke. Raised in Melbourne, Florida, the now 29-year-old was introduced to a wide online audience around the time that TikTok began exploding in popularity in the United States. The premise of his account seemed simple enough from afar. Luke was an excellent speaker and used his understanding of the English language to create short-form videos centered around proper pronunciation and phrasing.
Do not say, explain me or explain you. Instead, you should add the word to. For example, I'm going to explain to you.
Teacher Luke's account had immediately become an asset for foreign speakers to better understand the language, though this wasn't all the account consisted of, as he'd also post a variety of other mildly interesting travel-related videos.
Top countries that are the most dangerous to travel to in the year 2022.
And at some, he even took a go at making some more comedic-based content.
I didn't realize until I came to Thailand that I hate Thais. I'm just gonna say it. The weather is just too hot, man, to wear them around your neck.
But none of these were the reason that the account grew to the size it did, as initially his page...
I was like, what?
I hate I was like, where we going?
I was too, and I was like, just to hear the pun, I'm like, oh, okay. I see how it came around full circle.
But none of these were the reason that the account grew to the size it did, as initially his page was followed by nearly 3 million TikTok users, thanks mainly to his more edgy content, leading to some clips that I'm certain some of you have seen before.
How do you say this word? Today I'm going to teach you 3 different ways to say this word. Some have a hard R and some do not.
Negro is the common word used to call black people in Thailand. When I first moved here, I was shocked to hear it because in Western culture, it's a pretty offensive word.
It's hard to label this content that thrust Luke's page into the spotlight, but I guess it could be described as baiting his audience into thinking he's saying something problematic, but instead making it a loosely educational moment, thus vindicating himself from anything he said. Like I mentioned before, these videos were definitely edgy, so much so that in 2020, his page was actually terminated by TikTok, thus leaving him all the way back at square one. Undeterred though, he kept on creating, launching a new account under the username English with Teacher Luke, and within only 1 year, it had already gained over 1 million followers back.
1 million followers on this account. Thank you guys so much. It's so crazy that 1 year ago on my old account, I hit 1 million on the same day.
His content was seemingly inevitable, with each video being primed for virality. But what many might not have known was that his passion for the English language, as unserious as it may seem from these videos, reached far deeper than just the online world. In 2019, Luke packed his bags and moved all the way across the world to Thailand, where he would use his love of the language to get a job as an English teacher, working with students from K-12 while simultaneously having a flourishing career on TikTok. All factions of his life were thriving, and for a moment, it seemed everything in his world was going right. How could he ever fail? A US teacher and TikTok star accused in Thailand of having sex with a teenager. Luke Rockwell was released on bail after he was charged in Bangkok with luring a minor for indecent purpose. With one article, one headline, the facade of English teacher Luke had crumbled. But how did it all go so wrong? And what exactly happened that led to his arrest?
It's so fast.
Well, it started shortly before the news broke, when a 16-year-old living in Bangkok visited her doctor's office, complaining of intense stomach pain and discomfort. After administering a series of tests, doctors would determine that the girl had contracted not just one, but 2 STDs, with her only partner having been Luke Rockwell. Her mother was furious upon the revelation and immediately took her to the police, where a full investigation was done, revealing some truly damning information. It was discovered that before the pair had met up for the first time, they had been messaging back and forth for roughly 5 months, and during this time, Luke lured her and eventually convinced her to sleep with him. And while this is horrible enough, some agencies actually reported that the girl was a former student, and had become a fan of his content, which led her to reconnect with her former teacher, insinuating that the grooming may have stemmed back even further than just those 5 months. But I need to note that I was unable to find any solid proof of this, so take these reports with a grain of salt. But what is known for sure is that while they were seeing each other, Luke asked the girl to keep their relationship private until she had turned 18, so as to not turn any heads. And during this time, Luke never mentioned having STDs, and instead he promised the girl that he was clean, even lying to the point that he had showed her a copy of his medical history, which was likely either forged or completely out of date. Luke's actions were heinous, and his words were that of a man who knew he was doing wrong, yet actively trying to get away with it anyway.
So my biggest thing is, was she the only one?
That's...
Cause now
I'm like, how many, you know what I'm saying?
Oh my.
That's sick.
A man who knew he was doing wrong, yet actively trying to get away with it anyway. And if all these charges weren't horrible enough, the investigation into Luke revealed one final proverbial nail in his coffin, as the investigators had discovered undeniable proof that these alleged encounters had taken place. Proof that came in the form of video recordings that were all done without the victim's knowledge.
Wow.
Following the discovery, Luke was arrested and his TikTok page was removed once more. But despite the evidence for these charges lobbied against him, it appears that Luke isn't actually in prison, at least not yet, as after quickly making bail, some internet users claim that they've seen him around Bangkok, enjoying his life and acting as if nothing happened, even posting stories on what appears to be his secret private Instagram. I was unable to find any updates outside of this, making it unclear whether Luke is still on bail, if he's been taken back into custody, or if he ended up beating the charges. So for now, it's uncertain how Luke's story will end. But it's still disheartening to know that his presence is still looming out there in the shadowy corners of the online world.
That's just sad and sick, bro.
Most definitely.
And prayers go out to the young girls. Like, that is the definition of grooming.
Yeah.
Like, even telling her, hey, don't say nothing till you
turn
18. You was gonna continue, or were you gonna pass her off once she turned 18? And if it came out to light, you can be like, oh, I never did anything with her. What? But you had evidence, so
yeah.
That in itself is just crazy, man.
October 25th, 2022. The bell rings throughout the halls of the Jiuan Middle School in the Jiangxi province of China, marking the start of another class period. Jiuan was not your standard middle school. For starters, it was massive, stretching roughly 600 acres around, and it featured dorm rooms where the students would stay full-time, sometimes even being accompanied by their parents. And on top of this, the huge complex was guarded and enclosed by a large wall topped with barbed wire. It was certainly a unique place, to say the least, but as the nearly 3,000 students across the campus piled into their different classrooms, one student failed to take his seat. 15-year-old Hu Xinyu. The teacher waited 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, growing more and more annoyed at the boy's tardiness. However, this annoyance would slowly turn to worry, as by the time the class period had ended, there was still no sign of the boy, prompting an immediate campus-wide search, yet he was nowhere to be found. And most chillingly, there was no record of him leaving out of the school's guarded exit. Confused, staff checked the campus security footage, where they would find Hu walking out of his dormitory, heading in the direction of his class, which was located in a building no more than a few hundred feet away. yet he never made it there. Instead, the campus cameras revealed a blind spot of only 10 meters between his dorm room and that class building. A blind spot that no student and likely no faculty, aside from maybe a select few, could have known about. And yet, within that blind spot, Hu had vanished into thin air. In between these buildings was a path that led to a large park on the premises, in which many assumed Hu had probably slipped into. But when police checked the area with their tracking dogs, their search yielded nothing. So they took things a step further, this time doing a deeper search of the campus itself, even looking into septic tanks and water tanks, checking every square inch. But again, no trace of the boy was found. All they could uncover was his cell phone and other personal belongings that were left behind in his room, with the only object of his missing being a small recorder that he had purchased a few days before. It was believed that at the time of his disappearance, that recorder was literally the only item he had taken with him. Somehow, this young boy had disappeared within the tightly watched walls of his school, with there being no sign of him on campus and no evidence that he had ever left. Despite the fact that China, and this area in particular, is blanketed in cameras, seemingly watching every single inch. But Hu was nowhere. It was as if the school had swallowed him whole. Shortly after his disappearance, Hu's mother began desperately posting to Douyin under the account Xinyu's Mother Searching for Son, where she begged the public for help in finding her missing child, with the clips of these plaintive pleas sparking immense interest from a vast number of people across the web, leading to the case immediately exploding in popularity that only continued to grow as new disturbing information began to surface. It started with a revelation made by an internet user in China who mentioned that Hu was not the first student to go missing from the school. In fact, these disappearances were becoming seemingly a yearly occurrence, prompting immediate speculation about the school and their potential involvement in these disappearances. With the school,
That is true. That is true. You got to look at the school. That little breeze, like who would know unless you're
very, very, very.
Unless you guys
like familiar, you know the school top to bottom.
You don't just know that there's a blind spot like that.
Because I was like, okay, it's guarded in front, no trace in the wooded area, by the school. Like, he's still there, or someone there has something. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to go there.
Is it a secret door somewhere?
It's something.
Yeah.
Like, strange.
School becoming more suspicious as reports began emerging that once police had arrived, they realized that there was data missing from the CCTV cameras, with many of the cameras on the premises conveniently malfunctioning on that specific day that Hu had vanished, almost as if the footage had been deleted afterwards. But not before one of the guards had supposedly snuck a video, which he claimed exposed what really happened that fateful day.
What in the world?
I'm not sure if I'll be able to show it here, but the grainy CCTV footage shows what looks to be a young boy, lying limp before being placed onto a stretcher and carried away, with many online taking the clip and running with it, claiming adamantly that it was Hu and that he had clearly been kidnapped. And this wasn't the only supposed recording of the incident, with the other evidence coming from the recorder that Hu had been carrying. But although at this point the device was never recovered, one internet user claimed that it featured a cloud storage system, in which he was able to hack into and access Hu's final recording from that day, with this clip being even more disturbing. With all these claims and supposed evidence making their way across the internet, everything seemed to point to Hu's disappearance as being one massive conspiracy, one in which the school was not only working to cover up, but also seemed to actively play a role in. But why? What was so special about Hu that made him a target? Well, one account from a supposed student of the very same school stated that before the boy had vanished, the school held a mandatory health evaluation, where Hu's blood was drawn, revealing that his blood type was P. And if that doesn't sound like any sort of blood type you've heard before, it's because it's one of the rarest in the world. As in China, only about 1 dozen out of 1 million people have it. Because of this, it was claimed that Hu had been killed in order for his organs to be harvested and used as a transplant for a local official who shared the same rare blood type. The story was compelling, and with the school's suspicious history of disappearances, people in the area began to protest at its gate, demanding to know what was going on, to which the principal and the staff lashed out in anger, acting crazed as if they had something to hide. Which only added further fuel to the fire. And with all these disturbing accounts and details coming out from all across the web, the fire raged more and more intensely as the theories grew wilder and wilder, until January 29th, 2023.
You think foul play was involved? That was last year.
Yeah.
I get my years mixed up sometimes.
Do I think foul play was involved?
I'm saying from the school.
Possibly, unless something was going on with him.
True.
That no one like knew or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Than that,
January 29th, 2023. When a man walking his dog stumbled across the body of Hu Xinyu as it hung lifelessly in the woods, alongside a brick wall just barely 60 meters away from his school. Next to his body was the voice recorder that had multiple audio messages stating his intentions to end his own life, which was done using his own 2 shoelaces. In the time since his body was discovered, lots of new information has been brought forward by officials, who sternly stated that both the recording and the video of Hu had been completely faked, along with a variety of other details that the press had leaked, and that an autopsy revealed that he had no injuries other than those that were self-inflicted, and most importantly, that the body included all of its organs. It was also discovered that his journal revealed that he was more troubled than many had believed, and that he was going through a difficult time, with his grades suffering drastically, leading to these dark thoughts. The whole case was honestly a mess, and especially the coverage during the height of its popularity, as it's now clear that people were simply making up stories and even evidence, which the media ran with without question, leaving us in a strange place where it's impossible to tell which stories and which details were actually real. But to this day, the case still remains polarizing, with many continuing their suspicion of the school and their involvement, with the most common argument being that the school had been searched over and over and over again, and yet no one saw the body. Along with this, many have taken exception to the idea that Hu could have carried this all out with just his shoelaces, as he was there for over 3 months. Could they really have supported his entire body weight for that long without snapping? Well, some people actually tested out the strength of these shoelaces to see for themselves, leading to various degrees of success.
来，1、2、3，大家伙咱们看一看啊。
Prompting the theory that Hu's body was somehow planted there afterwards, or that it wasn't even him. So despite this case technically being closed and the investigation now over, it's still very much alive here in the online world.
Different.
Where people continue to question what exactly happened to Hu Xinyu.
Now, the possibility of it not being him, now that's different. That hit harder.
Yeah, because he was there for months, so his body would have been.
The shoestring theory, that like in my head, I'm like, there's no way his body's hanging like that for 3 months.
And did y'all like search where he was found at? Did y'all like search that area prior?
Like they said, like y'all searched the school, y'all say y'all searched the area, so nobody saw him. That doesn't sound right. You know? Something just sounds off.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know, cause I'm just thinking, cause in the beginning he said that he didn't take anything with him but the recording, right? Mm-hmm. So like,
if he had a journal, why would he not write out a note? Why would he just take a recording? If he already had been journaling about how horrible his everything was, he would have just wrote a letter. He wouldn't have took a recording.
I mean, maybe so. Some people,
Possibly.
journal
Possibly.
and record, but
You never know.
yeah, with this story is a little,
Still
iffy
questionable.
to me, questionable because still, what happened to the other kids that?
True.
So that's why I'm still just a little, but yeah,
Still a sketch.
yeah.
Let's take a look at Dewey's Rules of Water Safety. Now, if you ever find yourself in trouble in the water, relax. If there's an emergency, go to the nearest telephone and dial 911. You got it? Good.
It was a freak occurrence. 47-year-old Deborah Stevens was making her way through her typical route delivering newspapers when suddenly the skies opened up, dropping down a historic flood on Fort Smith, Arkansas. But knowing she had a job to do, Deborah pushed on, dodging closed and flooded roads in an attempt to get to her usual paper route. A risky decision that proved costly, as upon attempting to take a new path behind a set of apartment buildings, Deborah's car would be swept up into the floodwaters, pinning her vehicle against a set of trees. And in a panic, she calls the police.
911, where's your emergency?
I have an emergency, a severe emergency. I'm in a flooding. My car veered off the road while I was doing my newspapers, and I'm flooded over here on the end of Kincaid, and it's all the way up to my windows, and I can't get out, and I'm scared to death, ma'am. Can you please help me really
I
bad?
need you to calm down. I need you to tell me where you are.
Upon establishing contact with 911 operator Donna Renew, the two began their...
I say this, it ain't gonna sound the best. I'm gonna try to say it in the best way possible I can. But if you go into a flooded area like that and you get stuck, it's very much hard and impossible capability that the police can be able to get there to rescue you. You get what I'm saying? Maybe somebody has a boat or something, but they're not. This is not something that they always are 100% prepared to do. They don't have the what's
Or
the
the
best?
capability to be able to possibly,
Or just the
what you trying to say?
not the capabilities, or just the
Be equipped to be able. Like,
yeah. I'm trying to find a word. I can't find a word, but they haven't like the practices, the best practices to deal with a situation like this. They haven't went through the training.
they're not equipped.
Yeah, to deal with this because that's not what they normally deal with. If it's something that's not normal, like does it normally flood? Is this something a safety precaution
Well, I
that
guess
they're
with
aware
situations
of?
like that, do they?
I don't know.
Like send out like bigger trucks, bigger.
No, it's a flooded area. You can, her car is swept up to her window, so even if I send out a bigger truck, that truck is 9 times out of 10 gonna get stuck
Well,
too.
I'm just trying. I'm just.
Only thing you
wondering,
probably
like,
possibly can go out there and do is get her is by boat. You know, because the flood water's too high.
Yeah,
But for
I mean,
newspaper, it ain't that important.
some people.
Newspaper?
I know, but I'm just saying, people.
I
I've seen
ain't
people
delivering
like
no newspaper, no flood.
I know, but I'm just saying, a lot of people really take their job like
Too serious.
Yeah.
their work trying to determine where exactly she had been trapped, as this area was completely unfamiliar to Deborah.
I don't know, ma'am. I'm on the end of Kincaid down here by these apartments. There's some apartments on Kincaid. I don't know what they're called.
What color is your vehicle?
Yeah, dark. It's gray SUV, lady. The water's all the way up to my windows.
Okay, hold on for me. Don't hang up. And you're at close to the area 5801 Kincaid?
Yes, ma'am. I need help right now.
The urgency of the situation is clear just by hearing Deborah's voice, as she pleads with the operator to send someone out to her as soon as possible, recognizing that the water was likely going to consume her in the following minutes, leading to Deborah growing more and more panicked.
Please send somebody fast to get me. I'm scared.
Okay, listen to
I
me.
can't
Calm
swim.
down
I
for
can't swim. I'm going to drown.
You're not going to drown. Just calm down.
Well, ma'am, it's all the way up to my chest.
Okay,
Please,
listen,
hurry.
I understand. Hold on for me. Just don't
I'm
hang up,
scared.
okay?
I'm sorry.
I understand. It's fine to be scared. You have a right to be scared.
I'm
Hold on for me.
scared.
Though this is where this fairly normal 911 call begins to take a strange turn, as Deborah's urgency was not reciprocated by the operator, who began to not only dismiss Deborah's worries, but seemingly become annoyed at the trapped woman.
Somebody save me.
Am I not on the phone with you trying to get you some help?
Yes, but I
Okay,
need
so stop.
somebody to get me out before I die. I'm sorry.
You're not gonna
I'm
die. I don't know why you're
scared.
freaking out. It's okay. I know the water level
I'm
is high.
scared.
I understand that, but you freaking out doing nothing but losing your oxygen up in there. So just calm down.
But are they not gonna come get me?
You said what? I'm sorry.
When are they gonna be here?
As soon as they get there.
Man, my phone's gonna die, and they're not gonna find me, and it's gonna ruin my brand new phone.
Do you really care about your brand new phone? I mean, you're over there crying for your life. Who cares about your phone?
And this frustration only grew more and more visceral as she then began to place the blame onto Deborah for getting into this predicament in the first place.
Hold on, okay?
Thank you. I'm sorry if I'm rude, but I'm
You're not
scared.
rude.
I know you're scared. Just calm down for me.
I'm scared. I've never had anything like this happen to me before.
Well, this will teach you next time. Don't drive in the water.
Wow.
Couldn't see it, ma'am. I'm sorry, or I wouldn't.
I don't see how you didn't see it. You had to go right over it. So.
No, ma'am, I was in a drive. I was in a
awful.
parking lot. There was no water where I was at.
Okay.
See.
The water just didn't appear.
At this point, the call had been going on for well over 15 minutes, but still, no help had become visible to Deborah, who, despite knowing just how close to death she was, remained as composed as she could be, just thankful to have someone there talking to her, even if that person on the other end of the line was dismissing her and demeaning her.
I'm sorry, ma'am. What's your name?
Donna.
Donna, thank you for being here for me, Miss Donna.
You're welcome.
Though all of this failed to stop the obvious annoyance of the operator, who after nearly 20 minutes now, couldn't help but sneak in a laugh.
In between both apartment complexes on this street, at the dead end.
In the very back side, there's a bunch of trees.
Right there, she showed us 5801 at the end.
Before finally just losing it.
These people are out, they can all see me. They're all standing out there watching.
Miss Debbie, you're going to have to shut up, okay? I need you to listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Donna is awful.
The whole call had been leading up to this moment, as Donna's frustration had finally boiled over, as she straight up tells the helpless woman to shut up. Though despite this demand, Deborah couldn't keep quiet for long, as the situation that was teetering on the edge of life and death suddenly collapsed.
It's helping me pin your location, so don't hang up on me. Okay, where are you moving to? Tell me where it's going. Okay, tell me where you are. Listen to me, hold on. I'm on the phone with her right now. She is legit freaking out. She said the vehicle is now moving in the water and she doesn't know which way it's going, so stand by. Bye.
Wow.
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 I'm standing around the very back side of the apartment complex on the southeast side, and the only part of her car I can see is the roof and the dome light that's on in it. I can't get out there to her, and you're gonna have to wait out here to me to get to me, so.
It would take officers approximately 12 hours to find Deborah's car, where inside she was dead. Her final moments of life being captured on a 911 call, where the operator couldn't even pretend to care. And her predicament was made even more heartbreaking in hindsight, as it was revealed that Deborah was handicapped and couldn't even swim. In fact, she had a crippling fear of water. Following the release of this dispatch call to the public, heavy criticism was immediately placed onto Donna Renew, with hundreds and thousands of people signing petitions calling for criminal charges to be made against her. But no such charges were ever made. In fact, she wasn't even fired for her role, because this was her final shift anyway. She had submitted her 2 weeks' notice exactly 2 weeks before.
Wow.
And this just so happened to be her final shift, which perhaps explains her attitude.
Wow.
And with one last cruel twist to the story, just 3 weeks after Deborah's passing, her mother Nancy would pass as well, with family members claiming that it was due to a broken heart and the stress caused by the ordeal. Though despite this and the fact that Donna Renew has never apologized for her actions, Deborah's family has gone on to forgive her nonetheless, with this amazing act of virtue shining a faint light on one of the darkest cases I've ever come across.
Man.
Oh, that broke my heart.
That is sad, bro. Like,
that absolutely broke my heart.
That was very sad because.
Oh my gosh, I hate that she was connected with her.
Because, like, at the end of the day, was there a possibility that they were going to be able to recover? I don't know.
It's the thing where at this point, possibly yes, possibly no, depending on where she was at the initial.
It seemed like she was in one of the most flooded areas.
Well, I'm saying at the initial time that she called, because keep in mind, she said her car was moving, so it was
started drifting away more.
Drifting away probably to an even deeper part of it. But my thing is, if they could or could not, it's the fact that my last moments I had to share with someone that gave absolute zero F's to give.
Because I was thinking about, I was like, could they possibly have done something? And then in my head, I'm talking about as far as charging Donna. And I'm like, there's no criminal charges, honestly, they could have put on her. Because what criminal charges was you?
Yeah, the only other thing would be to terminate. But since it was her last shift anyway, and yeah, that definitely explains the attitude. She didn't care. I hate she was connected with her. I hate Deborah was connected with her.
I think people in those type of jobs, once you put in like a 2 weeks notice, and we see like a drift that you really don't care, and we just go ahead and pay out a severance package and keep it pushing. We'll pay you for your 2 weeks, but we actually need people here that's gonna care and that understand that this job is very important.
Yeah.
Every call is very important because you don't know what might be going on the other end of that phone call. Somebody can be calling, and that could be the last call that they ever make. And we need you to take every call serious, whether it's a fake call, prank call, whatever, an accidental call. We need you to be on A game 24/7.
And I hate that people go and
into professions.
Yeah, they go and apply for these jobs, and they have no type of care or regard for other people. And
Facts.
I'm like, these are like the wrong people to have on the other end of a call.
Because those typically those jobs just pay very well. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people make a lot of money from those jobs, and that's the main reason why they there. It's not because they have a passion for helping people.
Care.
But don't get it twisted. You do have a lot of people who do go into those professions. I'm just saying. I'm just saying for other people.
Yeah, and I hope y'all know what I mean. Like you definitely do. But I'm saying the people that are like her,
like
Donna, like just have no type of regard. Like you're being rude. You took like this. Those are her last moments, and I don't know. But yeah, that broke my heart though.
Facts, man. Facts. But hey, man, y'all spam us up in the comments, man. Let us know y'all thoughts about it for us in the comment section down below if you don't mind. But as always, y'all know how I go, man. I do go with the name DJ New Kid. This is we are.
Go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar.